Did Savjz intentionally cheat in the latest Riftbound tournament? My name is John Panio. I am a judge that will be judging at Houston. I'm going to give you my perspective from a streamer, judging, and competitive player standpoint on whether or not Savjz actually did this intentionally. We have a Riftbound community where we talk about all things Riftbound. Links will be in the description in the down below. But for those guys who don't know Savjz, he is someone that I've seen before. He is a pretty prominent Hearthstone creator. However, he stopped uploading a year ago because the game is honestly and truthfully isn't in the best spot. However, nothing against Hearthstone, just he stopped making content for that. He then recently switched over to Riftbound and participated in a competition where there was a $10,000 prize pool. The issue was that this is one of the first North American big tournaments that is broadcasted, and as a result, there were a lot of things that just weren't done really properly. And spoiler alert, I'm not going to say whether or not I believe this was deliberate or not deliberate, but what I will say is Savjz, unfortunately, is receiving a ton of backlash on something that he should not be truthfully getting that much backlash on if the event was run properly. Let me explain. The interaction where Savjz quote unquote cheats is in game 2, and in this game 2 it actually matters quite a bit. In the first round, I can tell you all costs were paid properly, there wasn't a problem. So in this situation, in this game where Savjz cheat, it creates the game state where it's absolutely unrepairable. There are a lot of things that could have been done better. So turn 1, Savjz plays his Cytheria, pass. Jacob plays his Lecturing Yordle, pass. Savjz's hand right now, if we take a look, his hand is terrible. 2 Call to Glory, Set Champion, Unyielding Spirit, Showstopper. That's his hand. So Savjz knows there are only 2 plays he adds. Either he moves Cytheria into a battlefield, passes, or he plays Showstopper. If he plays Showstopper, Cytheria is ready. It would move into Whispering Hill with his ganking, and then he can gank over and get 2 points. He will still have 3 runes available, and he has Call to Glory and Call to Glory, which he could play to protect Cytheria. He would guarantee 3 points, but he would lose a lot of cards. So he opts out and not do that play. His only option right now is to either pass or conquer and pass. His hand is super bad. So as the player, as a competitive player, Savjz knows that his options aren't great. So he decides, do I get a point or do I not get a point? He knows that in this matchup, he has to play for points, especially going first. If he doesn't, it is completely trolling. He goes in, moves his Cytheria into the Whispering Hillock. He has Call of Glory to protect his card down. Now, Jacob's hand is actually very interesting because Jacob's hand is actually super spell heavy. So if we take a look at Jacob's hands right now, you will see that he has a Retreat, a Cleave. The card behind Cleave is another Retreat. Then you have Cathian Rain, Hextech Ray, Falling Star. Those are his 6 cards right now. He has no other units in hand outside of the Kaisa Champion. This matters immensely because he is going to first try to get rid of the Cytheria by putting the Hextech Ray. Savjz actually has no choice but to protect the Cytheria with the Call to Glory. If he doesn't play Call to Glory, he is essentially wasting an entire rune not having played anything. As any player knows, you always want to play your runes and stay on curve in any game. If you don't stay on curve, you are essentially going to be losing immensely. He plays the Call to Glory with the 3 runes. Cytheria currently is a 4 might unit with a 1 health, so that means it's a 4-1. Jacob could trade the Lecturing Yordle for free. However, he chooses not to do that. He's going to move the Lecturing Yordle with a Cleave. This makes it so that the Lecturing Yordle is now a 5, Cytheria is a 4 might unit. Cytheria dies, and resources are now even. Cleave and Hextech Ray were traded for Cytheria and Call to Glory. A 2-for-2 interaction, everything is still technically neutral. This is where the game completely goes out of the rails because Savjz is moving so fast. Big mistake for a lot of competitive players is just playing things in your hand and going so fast that there is no room for interaction because you overthink things. Let's do this interaction very slowly. As a judge right now, I can assure you that a lot of things have gone super wrong, and this is where things would have been a lot better if there was a judge who was there and B, commentators who know what the heck is happening. Let me explain. Set Brawler. When I'm played, when I conquer buff me, spend a buff, give me +4 this turn. That's set. Showstopper. Buff a friendly unit in your base, then move it at a battlefield. So Savjz already knows to recycle the power. He paid 5 runes and recycled 1 power, and therefore you can see it on the board. Right now he has 4 tapped runes because he paid for the cost of Set. He then plays Showstopper, giving Set a buff, moving it into this Whispering Hillock. Here's as the judge where I say, pause, let's fix this situation. Number 1, he played Set, giving it a buff, expending the buff, making it an 8 might unit. He then plays Showstopper, which should make it a 9 might unit, moving it into the Whispering Hillock. Set is now 9 might with a buff on it. In doing so, the rune should have been tapped and recycled for Showstopper. The reason why Savjz probably doesn't do this is because he knows that the specific interaction of Smokescreen and Hextech Rate is the only thing that can kill his Set right now. Because he knows Unyielding Spirit can negate the damage of Hextech Rate, keeping his Set alive, he thinks probably that he has that extra rune available for use for Unyielding Spirit to protect himself from a Hextech Rate, because as a competitive player, you are thinking many steps ahead. The reason why Hextech Ray and Smokescreen is the only combination that kills Set is because Set currently right now should be a 9 might unit. Smokescreen would make it Set a 5 might unit. Hextech Ray would hit it for 3 damage, meaning there's 2 health left on the Set. Lecturing Yordle would hit it for 2 damage, killing the Set. And as a result, he would have to trigger its revive ability with the Set Legend to bring it back. However, certain triggers were missed. Number 1, he did not place the buff on the Set for the Showstopper. Set right now should be having a buff. It doesn't have a buff. That's a missed trigger. That is fine. However, not paying for the cost of Showstopper is super detrimental, because technically right now he still has 1 more might up for Unyielding Spirit, and that's probably what Savjz is thinking. There's only the 2 combinations of cards, Unyielding Spirit and Smokescreen, but he has forgotten to pay the cost of Showstopper, skipped a few steps in his thought process, thinks he still has 1 rune available to play Unyielding Spirit to protect himself from the Hextech Ray if Jacob has Smokescreen and Hextech Rate in his hand. This is the only viable thought process that I can see as a competitive player of why I would miss the cost of Showstopper, because I'm thinking a few steps ahead. Therefore, I missed the cost of Showstopper because I still think I have this rune available for my Unyielding Spirit to protect myself from the Hextech Rate. That's the thought process of why Savjz did that. As a judge, I would say that the one thing that has to be corrected in this situation is Showstopper's cost has to be played. If there was a judge here, this would not happen. But not only that, though, the commentators also have fault here, because the commentators should know that that is not a viable move. If I was watching this right now as a commentator, I'd be waving down people to be like, yo, pay the cost of Showstopper. However, I also understand that as a commentator, you shouldn't be correcting the actions of a player, because that's kind of BM. Because I know that as a judge, when I see this happen, I have to correct it. But as a player playing in a tournament and I see something happen at another table that has no bearing on me, I should keep my mouth shut, because it's not my place to correct the errors of another player. It's the same thing in poker. You don't want to say anything to reveal information to another player, because that's their hand, that's their play. You let them be. You don't say nothing. Even if you are correct, you don't say nothing, because people will get super pissed off at you. As a judge, I have a bad habit of wanting to correct players at a game that's happening beside me, but I shouldn't be doing that, because even though I know I'm a judge, I'm at a player at this point, I shouldn't be correcting the play, because I know that will influence how the results of that game will happen. However, as a commentator, I do feel like if they were given the ability to, and if they knew of the situation, they 100% should have flagged a judge. But the fact that the commentators missed this and let this happen means that they personally were not counting runes. I, as a commentator, and I, as a judge, would 100% be counting runes. At this situation right now, Savjz should have paid the cost of the Showstopper, and he should be fully tapped out. This matters a lot, because you'll see what happens in the next turn. Jacob plays one of the 2 retreats in his hand, because he knows his hand is completely bricked. If he doesn't protect his Lecturing Yordle, he's number 1 wasting his retreat because there's nothing to play, and number 2 he'd be forced to be played in Kaisa out as his other unit unless he top decks another unit. So Savjz knows to put the buff on the unit because he's forgotten to put a buff from the showstopper originally on the buff. Once he conquers, then he then puts the buff onto the set. Now, Jacob has a very interesting play. Because he has Electrum Yordle in hand, he could play that, but he chooses not to do that. He has not Void Seeker, he has Falling Star, which he's not gonna do that because he needs to get rid of Set twice in order for him to fully get rid of Set because Set's legend ability is still active. So he chooses to play his legend, or not his legend, his Kaisa Accelerated, recycling 1. We also know right now that he has drew into a Clave. He drew into a Cleave, plays the Cleave, Kaisa's at a 7, moving into the set. This one is an interesting situation because the Kaisa technically has a way to be able to protect itself with another retreat. If Set does use Call to Glory, he could have retreated it, protecting the Kaisa if he really wanted to. Now, he's going to use the Falling Star to hit the Set. And here's the thing. We know Savjz has the Unyielding Spirit in his hand, and he is going to play the Unyielding Spirit. Here's the thing. Unyielding Spirit plays it, also pays the cost of Unyielding Spirit by recycling it. This is insane because this one turn completely changes the scope of the game. So VJ should be fully tapped out. He should not have access to one rune that he should have used for Showstopper because he kept one rune available for Unyielding Spirit. He plays Unyielding Spirit, keeping his Set alive. Set should be dead at this point. He is now going to play his Set from his champion zone, recycling one rune so he knows to pay for cost. And then what's going to happen is he is going to use the buff that Set got, use the Call Glory for free, making a Set a 7 might Set, moving into Kaisa, killing it because Jacob is fully tapped out. This one single swings the entire board in the game because we do know that Jacob has an Acathian Rain in his hand, and unfortunately that is the only thing that he can play from his hand because the only other unit he has in his hand right now is Electrum Yordle. He still has a retreat, and he only has nothing else that he could properly play. So he's in a really tough spot. He is essentially forced to right now play Acathian Rain and blow up his entire board. But even that's not enough because the Set is going to stay alive because the Set legend ability is available. So we already know that it is super GG's for Jacob. He has no board. He plays Acathian Rain. Only one of the Set will die and the other Set stays alive because of Set legend ability. And at this point, Jacob only has gone down 2 runes. And Savjz is going down 1 rune for preserving his Set. But in this situation, the game state is completely lost. Favor is in front of Savjz because he has the Set alive, and he will be able to move in and conquer for free because there's nothing that Jacob can do with the 1 rune that he has left over from this turn, and that swings the game. We will move into the last infraction where he quote-unquote cheats again because it also kind of sort of matters, but not really. So we are going to jump into this last few turns of game 3. So Jacob right now is at turn 7 points. He's playing Acathian Rain, which gets blocked by Unyielding Spirit because he has a Noxus Hopeful ready. If that resolves, he would blow up the 2 first mates at the other battlefield, moving the Noxus in, winning the game. Now the point right now for Savjz is incorrect. Savjz is technically at 6 points. Once it passes over to Savjz and he holds, he gets up to 7 points. So that's what's happening. This is game point right now. It is not 5 points. It's not. He is technically at 7 points for holding. If Savjz takes over the other battlefield, he will score his last point and he will win. This is what's happening right now. Things go kind of haywire. It kind of matters. It kind of doesn't. Let's slow down. Savjz puts his Set down. It gets a buff. He triggers the buff, giving Set +4. So Set is now an 8 might unit. He taps Arena Bar, giving Set a buff, expending that buff to make Set now a 12 might unit. So Set has been buffed twice. Once through his ability, Pit's passive, so he's an 8 might unit. He goes up to 9 with Arena Bar, expending the buff from the Arena Bar, going back down to 8, getting +4 for his ability. So his set right now is a 12 might unit, okay? He pays the recycle cost, set is a 12 might unit. He has a showstopper, forgets to pay the cost once again. This happened in the game previously. The set right now is a 13 might unit. He's a 13 might unit. 13 might unit going against a Watcher and a Noxus Hopeful. It's a 13 to 11. Voidseeker would hit the set, making it a trade. However, right now, Savjz does have, quote, a out. He technically, once again, should be fully tapped out. Because he played Showstopper, that one rune should have been gone and recycled. But in this situation, it doesn't matter. Because even with the Voidseeker being played, set with 13 would go down to 9. So set would have to go down to 9. But because he plays Call of Glory, set goes back up to 12. 12 is enough to get over the 11. So he just has enough to be able to win this final game. In this situation, it did not really matter because even if he had paid the cost of the rune for Showstopper and paid for the cost, he still had the Call of Glory for free, which he would have taken because he pulled the buff from the first mate that had it and gave Call of Glory to set, giving it a +3, giving him the win. So this was a situation, once again, where Savjz also forgets to pay for the cost of Showstopper, but it didn't matter because he had the Call to Glory to back it up, giving him the win. However, you can see he forgot to pay for the cost of the Showstopper. This was one of the few situations where the two things really screwed Savjz over. Number one, not having a judge for the final plays, and number two, commentators not seeing the interaction being flawed. What's really unfortunate is that because of how this interaction played out, Savjz got a lot of backlash. Following after the event, Savjz made another tweet. He basically says, "It seems that I played the card Showstopper incorrectly more times than I thought. I didn't know I was doing it. What I posted earlier was what I thought had happened. Nobody told me until the event was done. Nobody. That is the honest truth. I am truly sorry." The reason why I'm led to believe that Savjz didn't do this intentionally is because this is a live streamed event. People will know you are cheating. You do not want to incur the wrath of your community, and as a result, people are going to meme on him. Do I believe that Savjz deliberately cheated? No, I don't think so. I believe this was an honest mistake because I, as the player, can understand skipping the cost of paying for certain cards. But the moment you do that, I think he went into the habit of thinking essentially Showstopper was free, and that's why he did that continuously through like the matches. And as a result, he played that card super duper wrong. Am I saying he cheated deliberately? No. But what I am saying is he did cheat, and that did affect how the game ended up, or the game results ended up playing out. As a result, he got into a way higher placing than he probably should have. And it's just really unfortunate because if there was a judge there, and if the commentators knew what happened, this could have all been avoided because had he been called up by either a judge or a commentator, this could have all been avoided because he would have had, all he would have had to do is he just would have had to pay the cost of the Showstopper, exhaust the rune, recycle the rune, and then whether he wins or loses, it doesn't matter, right? Like, he would have just played the game normally. But because he was caught red-handed multiple times throughout the stream, people are really railing the guy. And I honestly just feel really sorry for Savjz because even though I don't know him personally, from how I've seen and from I understand as a content creator and also as a competitive player that there isn't any reason for him to deliberately actually cheat. With that all being said, though, what do you guys think? Do you guys think Savjz deliberately cheated, or do you think this was an honest mistake? Overall, this is just a really unfortunate situation that happened because of just a lot of factors moving together that went wrong, and because there was no judge properly, I would say, and because there was also nobody on the panel of commentators who knew what the heck was happening, it led to this entire gong show fiesta where Savjz is getting ultra punished for something that could have been resolved if those measures were put in place. Once again, we have a Discord community where we talk about all things Riftbound. Link in the description down below. John Panio signing out. I'll see you in the next video. Probably see you guys at Houston. Bye for now.